It's your higher self. Yes? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. Got it. I'll relay the information. Thanks so much. Yeah, yalla, bye. See ya. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, bye. So, I got some really serious news for you. Yeah, it was just your higher self on the phone. You know, the high-tech phone. Yeah, they want you to stop refusing your life. And they know that you know what I mean, and they know that you know what area of your life or areas you are refusing, not accepting, resisting. And they want to let you know that that's okay, but it's time for a different story. So this leads us into another series. And by series, what I'm really talking about is a journey. And by journey, what I'm talking about is an adventure. And this adventure is all about the movement from non-acceptance to love. So if you've seen the Discouraged to Willing series, that was on the Hawkins scale of consciousness, a movement from more apathy into willingness. So a bit of a jump. Now we are moving from a sense of non-acceptance, lower down, into love, so higher still. And higher is not better, right? Because it's not so black and white. It's a state of consciousness that will enable you to feel freer, fuller, more fulfilled, right? So part 1 is all about why you are refusing your life. And by refusing, I'm talking about non-acceptance. And non-acceptance is also akin to resistance. Okay, so why do we resist life instead of accept life? Well, if we accept life, then that means accepting it fully. The good, the bad, the ugly, the sad, the happy, the joyful, the shadowy, the mournful. And that it means we have to accept our role and responsibilities within life. And that often means doing uncomfortable things, like facing some uncomfortable truths, like moving away from some unconscious mechanism of defense that is keeping us small, such as allowing capital R resistance to overthrow our life. And it means learning how to process our emotions, learning how to not be a slave to the thoughts that enter our psyche, and therefore how to reframe unhelpful thoughts, how to disentangle from the drama triangle, how to anchor our authentic, soulful, creatively liberated self into this reality, not just being in wishful thinking. I'm someone who for so long I thought I was being productive by thinking about things. But what happened is that I would think about things and think about things and think about things, and I wouldn't put anything into action. And so it remained as wishful thinking. And I'm like, yo, why is my life stagnating? Oh, it's because I'm thinking, I'm not acting. So the shift from non-acceptance to love, it sounds pretty groovy, right? You're like, Sophie, it sounds great. Yeah, it is. But it's not easy. And that's why you don't accept your life. And that's why you refuse your life in various areas. I'm not assuming that you refuse your whole entire life, no. But there are facets of your life that you aren't accepting. That's why you clicked on this video. So conceptually, the idea of accepting sounds great. But in reality, what it takes to do that can be tiresome and laborious. And we need to forge the powerful tool of acceptance, which starts with self-acceptance, in order to deconstruct our inauthenticity, to deconstruct the false layers of self, and remove those programmed layers of the onion, whatever it might be. So refusing and resisting life is also refusing our true inner, most heartful desires and truths, because they are a threat to the false self. And the false self was created to keep us safe, because at some point in our life, likely in the first 7 years of our incarnation, we were led to believe that it wasn't safe to be ourselves in the fullness of who we are. And so began the creation of the false self. So we don't demonize the false self. Ideally, we don't demonize anything, because we're then exiling the thing and then we become toxically loyal to it. What you resist persists. That's why what you resist persists. So authenticity is a threat to this false self. And the false self is equally a threat to the authentic self. The authentic self being our purpose. It is our purpose to embody our authentic self. It's not about a tangible doing, but it's more about a being, a state of being. This is our soul medicine. This is our destiny, whatever words feel resonant for you. So, capital R resistance. You might have heard me speak about capital R resistance in some other videos, and this term was coined by Steven Pressfield, who wrote the book, The War of Art. And this was also the book that I had referenced a few times, and then magically just appeared brand new in hard rubbish. So, divine synchronicity. I loved it. Alas, the capital R resistance is the thing that perpetuates our state of non-acceptance. The capital R resistance is the thing that we all have to face, not just once, but in iterations, because that is like the gatekeeper between you now and you, the other now, the you that has transcended the limits of this now. The you that has faced the entourage of the fears, all the reasons why not, all the ways we'll fuck up and fail, and how hard it will be. But acceptance from that place, acceptance feels far away. But it isn't actually. I know for myself, acceptance felt like it was just so disconnected from my current reality, and it was almost like I had to hike a mountain in order to attain acceptance, without realizing that acceptance could happen in 1 second. 1 second shift, microsecond shift in my being, in order to just slightly redirect the flow of my focus and therefore my energy. And so in that, acceptance is not a bypass. Acceptance is the capacity to face reality head on as it is. Not as you'd like it to be, not as it was, but as it is. Acceptance is akin to presence, and that's not easy. I know for myself, and as I'll say in all the things, I'm not speaking about this from a place of I've fully figured this out, I am the master, follow me. No, I have a few things to say about this, yeah? And I'm sure you would have a few things to say about this too. I'm sure you felt when you have been able to access a state of acceptance about yourself or a situation you're in or something that somebody did which didn't feel good. And so then you were able to just be with it, not try to change it, not try to change how you were responding to it, but just allowing. Acceptance as allowing. And so that means you can find acceptance in your unhappiness. You can find acceptance in the parts of yourself that you don't want to look at. You can accept that there are parts of yourself you don't want to look at. Not to then bypass looking at those things, though actually to assist you in doing so, because it's almost like if you're so used to facing parts of yourself that are uncomfortable, and then responding to that with like, oh my God, I'm such a horrible person, that reinforces why you don't want to look at those things. And then acceptance comes in being like, hey, you can look at those things and I'm not going to judge you, okay? I am going to be here as a third party outsider kind of thing, unbiased, here as a pillar of loving awareness, right? It makes me think of Ram Dass's words, like, I am loving awareness. And oftentimes I'll like sort of channel that frequency in more like Vipassana style meditations of like channeling that loving awareness in the scanning of the body, and this massive shift. And that's also assists me in accepting. So acceptance allows us not to hide from ourselves anymore or others. This series is going to unpack a whole bunch of things connected to acceptance and non-acceptance, from more about acceptance as the path to self-liberation, but also acceptance as vulnerability, acceptance as reason, as just stepping into the power of you. And then love. Acceptance is so closely connected to love because both of them speak to wholeness, isness, which is the yin and the yang. It is the light and the shadow, okay? Without accepting, we remain stuck in the jail cell of illusions, where there seems to be no way out because it's veiled behind the wall of refusal, of unconsciousness, of I don't want to see this clearly because it hurts. You feel me? Yeah. So, welcome to this 12-part journey. To begin, we are going to continue unpacking why you are refusing your life, be it your life in general or various areas of your life, or something that has happened maybe recently or a little while ago. Yeah, it could be big or small. Non-acceptance is a spiritual crisis of sorts. Why? Because it is a disconnection from the flow of life. A refusal to see what is because it challenges what we wish it were. Refusal is not simply defiance, but often fear masquerading as control. For example, let's say you're an artist and you have been putting off working on this particular artwork. Maybe it was a project that you started a while ago, or maybe it's a commissioned work, or maybe it's for a series you decided you wanted to do, or maybe it's for a group exhibition, or it's just for you. But you don't start it because you're insisting on waiting for inspiration, when in truth, you fear that your art just won't be good enough, that you won't be happy with it, that it won't meet the standards that you want it to meet. And so there is a non-acceptance of what is. There is a non-acceptance of what capacity you have now, of what time frame, of the fact that you don't necessarily feel super duper inspired. And that non-acceptance means you keep postponing, you keep procrastinating, yeah? What we're also going to sort of start to unravel in this video specifically is how acceptance is very similar to forgiveness, because on the Hawkins scale of consciousness, the emotion, so to speak, connected with acceptance is actually forgiveness. And this is really interesting because it kind of conflicts with the stuff that I've learned in family constellations, where we say that forgiveness actually disrupts the hierarchy, because it's not about you forgiving, because that puts you bigger than when you need to be smaller than, so to speak, your parent, so the flow of life force can come through, right? You're not pretending to be a parent for your parent, right? So forgiveness can sometimes challenge that. So I'm not talking about forgiveness in that sense, but I'm talking about forgiveness as the alchemical force that is necessary to soften this resistance. Resistance needs to be softened, okay, or at least dealt with, because otherwise we'll just feel stuck. And life is more merciful than that if we allow it to be, even amidst challenges. So, this is the unfolding of divine order. Even when it's painful, even when we feel that the resistance or the refusal, the non-acceptance is a protection, and that's okay. And sure, it might protect you for a bit, but it also will disconnect you from the abundant flow of love and growth that your soul really wants. So, this was a huge introduction, and I guess we've sort of spoken about some juicy points that I am going to reiterate throughout this video. We've got a good juice to go through, and part one that I want to take us through is defining non-acceptance and, asking that question, like, what are we fighting against? So I have a quote here from Peter Mickelson, and it goes like this. Psychological resistance is like an invisible wall that stands between aspiring individuals and the actualized self they desperately want to become. Bringing this resistance into view is vitally important to our personal development. People continually bump up against this wall, get knocked back on their stuff, get back up, and incomprehensibly repeat the procedure ad infinitum. We don't even know we're bumping into a wall. We're just left feeling confused, dazed, and disoriented, unable to make any sense of recurring self-defeat or self-sabotage. End quote. Yeah, exactly. The piece about we don't even know we're bumping into a wall. That's the power of the resistance. It's like it's veiled even from us. We just believe that it is so. The painful truth is that a lot of the time, the reason that we're fighting against life is because we are afraid of its impermanence. We resist love because we fear loss. We resist ambition because we fear failure. We resist connection because we fear rejection. You feel that? And so this refusal is often disguised as some sort of practical self-preservation, but at its root, it's a refusal to trust in the mercy of life itself, in the realization that the universe does often teach in opposites. Like if we truly decide at the core of our being, we will learn how to love fiercely, then we will be given challenges. We will be given opportunities where our love is challenged. We will be given the opportunity to love in spite of that challenge. And then we have actually loved. Because it's not just loving when we feel good, it's loving because love is. An example to ground that in, let's say you're someone who cannot forgive a past betrayal, and you're holding on to this anger and this resentment as a shield, only to realize that the anger has calcified into loneliness because you've created a barrier around your heart and you push connection away because you don't want to be betrayed again. And there's a non-acceptance of the, at some point, inevitable pain from relating. Another example, let's say you're someone who's in a toxic relationship because you believe that you are unworthy of love that is, quote unquote, better, more healthy. And the refusal is not of the relationship itself, but of the life waiting on the other side of their fear, and therefore a non-acceptance of the fear, and therefore the non-acceptance of the unknown. You see how intricately enmeshed these things are? So compassion to that. Always compassion to that. We are such complex beings that our system has an intelligent way of, compensating and readjusting. Like even when we have a physical injury, the rest of the body starts to compensate and rearrange and realign so that the system can work a bit better. But if it's unaddressed, sure, it can create some further imbalances. So it's the same for our more unseen states, like our psychological, emotional, spiritual health, right? Though from forgiveness, we access a state where we see that it's also, how do I want to say this? Forgiveness and acceptance allows us to see or feel and breathe in a reality that isn't punishing us. Instead, it's all divinely orchestrated to guide us towards transcendence through trials and tribulations, and therefore innate and inherent in life are these trials and tribulations in order for us to genuinely embody strength, acceptance, love. You feel how that shifts things? It's like you've taken off the glasses of like, yo, I'm just being punished, like I'm such a horrible person, oh my god, to, okay, stuff's kind of shit right now. I'm not feeling really good. I don't have any money, I don't have any friends, and I'm not being punished. I accept that I'm not being punished. I accept that there is a lesson in here for me, and I decide if I'm going to learn it or not. High self-responsibility. My ego a lot of the time does not like self-responsibility. Okay. Do you feel that too? You're just like, no, I don't want to look at this. But at some point it gets easier to look at it instead of not accepting, instead of refusing. It's kind of like wabi-sabi, you know, life will break us down and then we get to fill the cracks with gold. And the more cracks, the more gold. Not to say that we should go intentionally crack ourselves, but know that there is a way that you can see or you can perceive what is happening to you so that you feel there is a generative force surrounding it rather than a downward spiral. So this moves us into the second part of this video, which is all about the psychological foundations of resistance, speaking to the mind as a fortress. So the mind's role in this state of non-acceptance and refusal. Resistance is often a result of our mind, which is quite addicted to a sense of certainty, control, and comfort. Makes sense, right? Are you someone as well where you feel safe when you can understand a thing? Yeah, me too. I definitely feel safe when I can understand something. I feel safe when my mind can grapple something. And I feel less safe if I don't know what's going on. Makes sense, right? So I have another quote here from Casey, and it goes like this. We normally only resist things that are either A, crucial to our self-development, it can be scary and uncomfortable to grow, or B, aren't in alignment with our values and vision. So resistance is either a signal to push through and keep going, or to eliminate that task from your list completely. End quote. So the key psychological mechanisms behind this state of resistance and non-acceptance is 1, denial. A refusal to see what is plainly in front of us because it threatens something. A denial or a denying, consciously or unconsciously, of the fact that, for example, for myself, I can really quickly slip into a working hard instead of a working smart process. So I'm keeping myself really busy and I'm like deluding myself into thinking that I'm progressing because I'm just busy, instead of getting clear with what are the priority things that I need to do, not want to do, and then working through them step by step. And I'm able to see this with like, oh, bless you. Like there's really less of a, oh my God, Sophie, you've effed up. Like, why are you doing this? And it's more an understanding that there is a reason why, because at some point this was what helped me feel safe. And so instantly I can tap into that compassion and still see, yeah, that's actually not serving my highest and best good. Let's shift gears. And there, through the looking at the denial, we crack through it and enter into the state of acceptance, right? So don't be afraid of denial. Don't be afraid of the things that you're denying. You know, just find acceptance of the discomfort that will inevitably be accompanying these things so that you can go in and through. Another mechanism behind resistance and non-acceptance is projection. So blaming the other for our discomfort, our pain, whatever it might be, rather than facing our own fears, rather than taking responsibility, rather than putting the wishful thinking into action, rather than stepping out of the victim and being a creator. Yeah? So projection is huge. The video that I spoke about projection a little more was, I think, which one was it? I don't remember right now. Sorry. It's like leading. I don't remember. I'm sorry. I might leave it below. Alas, I am going to speak to in a second here. Projection, more specifically, is the process of also like dissociating from our own shadow content, let's say, or the undesirable things within our own process, and like putting them, let's say, imagine the thing that you're dissociating from is like a beanie, and you've dissociated from the shadow beanie, and the projection is like, oh, this thing which is mine, actually it's on you. And then you place the beanie on someone else and you're like, look, you're wearing the beanie, it's your fault, it's your problem, right? You're the one to blame because you're wearing the beanie. Instead of realizing that you put that beanie on that person because you didn't want to wear that beanie, right? And we can do this often really quickly and unconsciously. So, you know, it takes some time to, well, not necessarily time, but it takes a willingness to actually just try to catch that. And if you're relating with trustworthy people, you know, if you've reached a certain level of connection, likely they're going to be calling that stuff out. If they're not, you actually knowing what projection is massive. So good for you. That's a really, really amazing first step. So yes, know that projection is also what feeds into this non-acceptance. We also have rationalization, which is creating excuses to avoid a certain thing, to avoid what we know must be done, right? Not that we want to do it, but we know we kind of need to do it. But telling ourselves, oh, you know, rationalizing like, oh, it's a tomorrow thing. Oh, no, that's not for me to take responsibility for. It was their fault anyway, so they can deal with it. Or like, no, I mean, they sort of started the fight more than I did, so they should be the one who repairs. You see how there's a rationalization that feeds into a state of non-acceptance of the role that you're playing and the responsibility that you can take, and therefore are moving through and forward. For example, let's say that you are someone who is married and the relationship right now is quite distant. And there is a refusal and a non-acceptance of your role in that distance. Let's say they project blame onto their partner, criticizing them, blaming them for a lack of affection, a lack of emotional depth, while denying their own fear of vulnerability, of rejection, of abandonment, their own attachment styles, like, you know, that they don't want to face that they've got some unaddressed avoidant attachment styles, right? And their refusal is a refusal to see their partner's pain, to see that their influence upon their partner, right? And this denial perpetuates a cycle of disconnection, of isolation, of essentially turning what could be a moment of connection into this widening gulf of disconnection through the non-acceptance of the role that they are playing in that whole constellation. A denying, a projecting, a rationalization away from acceptance. So you see, this is very, as I used this word before, it's quite deep, and these are like threads that find their way to weave into all areas of our life. And again, it's coming from a place of trying to protect us on some level. Though I hope you can see through these examples that I've given so far that whilst it might feel initially like some kind of protection, it doesn't really help in the long run. So the mind, whilst it will find its way out, so to speak, of facing some uncomfortable truth or of taking responsibility or whatever it might be, it isn't then actually protecting us. It's almost like a warden, okay? And by refusing life, by refusing these uncomfortable truths, by refusing the pain that you need to feel in order to heal it, this is actually amplifying this pain, this thing that you don't want to face, because it's a half-hearted approach to life. You're neither feeling it nor not feeling it. It's there, but it's not there. It's like the house is sort of clean, but you haven't gone under the rugs. And I know for myself, this half in, half out state is so tiring. It's so tiring. Because whilst it might seem that the 100% in is actually more tiring, it actually isn't. Because when you're 100% in, it is like the anchor in a storm. Because you know, come rain, hail, sunshine, you are going to show up for the thing. Your relationship, your practice, your work, whatever it might be. And the 99% in, 1% out leaves this wiggle room. But if you give an inch, you can take a mile. And so that's been a huge process for me. Huge. I'm definitely someone who's found it very, very hard to make that leap from the 99% to the 100. And it's not because the 100's harder in and of itself, it's the fear barriers between the 99 and the 100. Because in relating, all of our shit comes up. Everything. And it's not just relating to people, it's relating to work, it's relating to food, it's relating to the land, to the earth, to the non-human kin, to, for sure, other people, to yourself, to your thoughts. Relationship is everything. So to shatter the fortress of the mind, this is also where we must cultivate a acceptance. Acceptance of the discomfort, acceptance of the fact that we don't want to accept. Okay? So moving on into this next part, I want to speak about how we resist love. So this is more speaking to relationships. Resistance, as I just spoke to, can show up really profoundly in relationships. And oftentimes that manifests as refusing to accept people as they are, imposing our own desires, fears, and expectations onto others. And this refusal is often rooted in our own insecurities. Right? So we often judge others or control others because we're projecting our fear of being imprisoned, or even a fear of being authentic, a fear of being vulnerable. So we try to control and we try to judge because actually we're judging ourselves. And we try to avoid vulnerability or honesty because we fear being hurt or rejected. Yeah. Your refusal to accept others is a divine mirror. Relationship is a divine mirror. Whenever we're relating with something, there we are looking back at ourselves. And that isn't some sort of super solipsistic thing of like it's just you, which, you know, from a higher perspective it's true. But zooming more in, what looks back at you a lot of the time is what you don't want to look at. Hence it being a divine mirror. Your blind spots look back at you. The things that you don't want to look back at you. Your fears look back at you. And sure, there is a higher octave of this where your beauty, your blessings, your gifts, your love can look back at you too, for sure. I'm not undermining that. Though, because relationship is such a divine mirror, it can be hard to be real in relationship because that part of us knows that being real and accepting relationship and accepting the whole journey of relating, right? Hopping on the ship of relationship. We like go out to sea and we know that there are going to be nights where it is raining and the waves are going to be crazy huge and you're going to get seasick and maybe all the water gets onto your clothes and then people are getting crazy on this boat because you've been out to sea for like 2 years. Yeah, so that part of you knows that it's going to be hard. And that's also why we don't want to accept it. That's also why we refuse life. Because life is relationships. Life is relating. Everything is relationship. And everything exists in relationship to other things. So really the core part of this video is tuning into the truth that we refuse life because we refuse the process of relating. We don't want that divine mirror to look back at us. And really, we do. We do want it to look back at us, but our ego doesn't. Our true self is all about the divine mirror. Okay? It is the divine mirror. So, this is a tender spot because it's so close to home. Yeah. Though we can access a state of transcendence by accessing forgiveness, and the state of forgiveness connects us to acceptance. You can position acceptance and forgiveness as the ultimate relational act, the ultimate relational act. Not as condoning harm, but as releasing the chains of resentment, of resistance, of refusal. Acceptance, and by extension forgiveness, restores relational harmony because it allows this flow of love and life force again. Instead of it being like a super intense contraction and a pushing back and a refusal and like, I don't want to look at this, you can see how this creates the fortress around you. And so nothing can get in, but nothing goes out. So as a gentle encouragement, may you accept others, right? May you forgive others so that you can accept and forgive yourself for the ways that you have withheld love from primarily yourself and by extension others. Yeah? So with that gentle encouragement, we're led on to the final part of this video, which is about that turning point of acknowledging refusal and accepting life. So I invite you to ask yourself, if you haven't already throughout the various stages of this video, is where are you refusing life? Is it in your relationships? Is it in your work? Is it in your health? Is it in your self-development? Just ask yourself. If it feels accessible to you, if you're not driving, I invite you to just close your eyes down for a moment. Give yourself the permission to really ask yourself that question, knowing that you have all the answers. We just need to be silent enough to create the space to receive those answers. So again, ask yourself, where am I refusing life? And breathe. Where am I refusing life? I'll give you a few more moments and I'll let you know when we're moving on. So go for it. Go deep. Good job. If you still need some time, feel free to pause this video. Otherwise, let's continue. So what came through for you? In which area of your life are you refusing the most? Or at least something that you're more conscious of right now? If you feel like being witnessed, for that process to be seen by the divine mirror, which can assist in that being moved through, feel free to write a comment. Let us know. Let the divine mirror witness you, hold you, love you, and shine the light of your soul back to you. Forgiveness and acceptance is not a forgetting. It's not a bypassing. It's not a reason to dissociate from what is here and now. And it's not something that can be forced either. But it is an encouragement. It's like the plants growing through the cracks in the ground, right? There is an acceptance that there's other areas of the ground which are covered in concrete, but there's a crack, so new growth can come through that. Forgiveness emerges, okay? And oftentimes acceptance emerges through that shift in perspective, through putting on different glasses to see your reality through a different lens. Because a lot of the time, it's not the thing itself that happens, but it's how we perceive the thing that defines how we move through the world, that influences the cycles in time and whether those things repeat, because we still haven't shifted the lens in order for it to be, something that we can learn from. And so again, returning to what came through for you in that question of what, where am I refusing life? I invite you to just drop in for another moment again. If it feels accessible to you, you can lower your eyes or gently close your eyes. And now I want to invite you to drop into your body a little bit more. Because the things that we don't want to face exist in our body. The body keeps the score. So tune in to where you are refusing life. And then go a little bit deeper and tune into the felt, visceral experience, the feeling of this refusal, the feeling of this non-acceptance. Just turn it up slightly. So it's not about the thing that you're refusing at this point now. We're actually going into the feeling of non-acceptance. Right? And you access that feeling through where you are refusing, right? Through the memory of someone hurting you but didn't repair, through the memory of you letting someone down and you didn't forgive yourself, whatever it might be. So take another moment and tune into that feeling and notice where it resides in your body. And maybe it's multiple places, though generally there's a specific area that holds more of it than others. If you're finding it hard to connect in, breathe. Give yourself permission to be here. Give yourself permission to see. And once you've connected in with the area that you're feeling this feeling, I invite you to now sense if there is a shape to it. Is there a texture to it? Is there a color to it? Is it big? Small? Is it heavy or light? Is it moving or is it still? And breathe. Just take another moment noticing that, and then we'll gently come out, okay? Okay, good job. Feel free to return to that at any time. But for now, if your eyes were closed, lightly open them. If your eyes weren't closed, smile. Everyone smile now, actually. It's a natural high. Don't underestimate that. There's a whole thing of smiling Qigong, by the way, like it's all about smiling. So anyway, good job. That takes us and leads us to the end of this video. A gentle reminder to try to see life as inherently merciful, even in the challenge, even in the hardships, even if you've beat yourself up because you just haven't been accepting life, or you've been denying certain things and not taking responsibility for certain things, or whatever it might be. Life isn't here to punish you, okay? Life is life, and lessons emerge in life based on previous decisions, based on your soul's essence and the lessons that you've chosen to learn. So resistance and refusal and non-acceptance is a natural part of the human experience, right? Though it's not where you have to rest. You can move from a refusal of life to an acceptance of life, because in that acceptance, you're connecting to truth. And by connecting to truth, you're connecting to your authentic self. And so if in moments of refusal, you are like, I just don't want to look at this, or it's too hard, it's too painful, I still am holding on to how they're the problem, it's not me. Allow acceptance to emerge by just giving yourself that permission to step back as the observer and try to look at it with more neutrality. Just look at it without trying to label it, without trying to make it good or bad. Just look at it. Allow acceptance to emerge. Allow forgiveness to emerge. But your part in it is still active, because you've still got to decide that you want to access that observer state, yeah? And you can do that. It's a second shift. You don't need to make it a mountain. I've made it a mountain in my life multiple times, and it just doesn't need to be. So I hope this video has catalyzed some goodness for you, and get excited for the next video of this series, which is going to be all about acceptance as an invitation. Acceptance as an invitation. Feels kind of nice, doesn't it? Yes? Okay. Thanks so much. Bye. That was my phone actually ringing, guys. Not this one. All right. So, a reminder that acceptance is the bridge between refusal and love. And when we accept life, we are no longer at war with it. I will say that again. When we accept life, we are no longer at war with it. We become life's ally. We become life's lover. We become life's creator. So with that, I will leave you, and I will see you in the next one. A reminder to support this channel. It helps me a lot if you like this video, if you subscribe, if you share this with folks who might benefit from it. Leave a comment, and I will see you soon. Bye!